are also voting on 10 propositions in this election.
Yeah, and they really address everything from retail theft to rent control, marriage even, and how future taxpayer money should be spent. ABC 10's Brandon Rittiman is following the vote count on these races so far. Brandon, what are you seeing? 10 propositions covering a wide range of different things. Where do we start? What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, I'm going to take a curated list that we've put together here, sort of in numerical order. And just for context, this is the statewide result coming in. You have some counties still in white, and we're looking at about a little more than a third of the anticipated vote in California in right now. So just want to give you that context. So this isn't something we're calling. I just want you to see where things are. Although some of these, as you see, as you're about to see, are very, very decisive right now. Okay, so Prop 2 is a $10 billion borrow and spend package to fix and build schools. That looks like it's handily passing. California has a long history of passing such measures, and the way we do it is a 50-50 split. So this would be state money that local districts would apply for. A lot of local districts have bond measures on as well. Okay, Prop 3 is a repeal of Prop 8. This is fascinating. If you think about this, we're going back to 2008, Barack Obama. Okay, we're going back in time. All right, this Prop 8 banned same-sex marriage in the state of California. The same year that California went for Barack Obama, they banned same-sex marriage by 52% of the vote. Right now, again, early, but look at how much 16 years has changed attitudes in this state towards queer people, because Prop 3 basically repeals Prop 8 and just says everyone's got a right to get married, regardless of gender. Very fascinating result coming in there. Prop 4, another $10 billion borrow and spend package, this one for climate adaptation. So think forest thinning projects, upgrading infrastructure, coastline, that sort of thing. It's a big scattershot package. There aren't specific projects identified for this yet, but there are buckets of money that is going to set up so that there will be projects the state can fund. Prop 5, this is really interesting. Prop 5 doesn't actually pass any bonds. It just tweaks the rules for passing local bonds. So think your city, your county, your fire district, your water district. If you voted on a measure like that, Prop 5 actually affects whether it's going to pass. Right now, unless it's a school district, any other local government race, you got to get to a 2/3 supermajority in order to approve those local bonds to build new fire stations or whatever. Prop 5 would have changed that to 55%, which is the way it is for the schools right now. It looks like voters are rejecting it right now, which is really interesting. So they're saying we still want that tougher threshold at the local level. Prop 32 is going to be one to watch. This is very, very close right now, with a third of the vote already in and a lot more to come. This would essentially push up California's minimum wage to $18 an hour, about a year or two earlier than it would have happened on its own, because California has an automatically adjusting minimum wage in our state law as it is. Prop 33, rent control. This is the third or fourth attempt in recent elections by the same people to advance rent control. And it's really not a different proposal than we've seen before. It's not a different result than we've seen before by the looks of things shaping up. And just look at how much red is on this map. It's quite fascinating. Prop 36 is the opposite. Prop 36 is the increase of penalties for certain criminal offenses. So this would basically take a repeat, like a third offense for retail theft, and make it a felony. It used to be, but the voters did away with that. Role reversal now. And as you know, organized retail theft has been a huge issue in the state. It would seem that the message has gotten through all across the state that this is a problem. The governor and the powers that be in Sacramento trying to push back on Prop 36, but may have been a day late and a dollar short, it would appear. This could all end up in a big court battle, depending on what the Democrats running the show in Sacramento decide to do about it. So this is by no means the end of the story, but this is a pretty loud answer from the voters right now. And, you know, I'm not a one-man calling station, but I think I can pretty safely say this is passing.
Brandon, can we go back to Prop 33, the rent control,
For
if
certain.
you don't mind? Let's talk about this because,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people thought, you know, would the third time be the charm, right? Like everybody keeps talking about, and I don't know if I can actually say the word on ABC 10 Plus, the rent is too you know what high, right? You know what I mean?
I think you can say it wherever you want to say it, 'cause that's fine.
You know, anyway, you know, they feel like the rent is too high, right? And
For
so
sure.
here we see this measure has come up time and time again. The third time now, it appears not to pass. Do you have anything there in the numbers that explains why that is, or what is driving this?
Look, rent control, California is just not that into you. I can make it that simple if you want. No, I mean, look, here's the deal about rent control, and maybe it doesn't really factor into the ads, right? But rent control kind of has the effect of creating a couple of rental markets, right? You've got the people who've stayed put, who are enjoying the benefit of the rent control, but then you've got the young up and coming person who's still got to pay the full market rate. So it's one of those things that I think people have a hard time getting their mind around, making the system more complicated. And I think that that's something that doesn't get talked about enough when we debate this issue. Maybe falls through the cracks, but look. I mean, Californians keep getting asked. They keep getting asked, and everyone complains about the rent and the high cost of housing, right? But it doesn't change the market fundamentals. It really only changes the rent for the people who were able to get lucky enough to get their foot in the door of a rental, And I think that trying to look at this as the whole solution is something that Californians have just been very skeptical of. I think trying to steer a market in a coastal state like this, where housing costs are just as high as they are, people have limited faith that this is really going to make the difference that people need to get ahead in the economy.
Well, Brendan, tied in with rent control and the idea of affordable housing and being able to afford your cost of living, I want to talk about Proposition 32, the effort to raise the minimum wage to $18.
Sure.
Can you give us some more perspective on that? Let's look at some of the counties that you're seeing where it's still pretty close, right?
Yeah, we can go ahead and kind of push in, and you can see a little bit of an urban-rural divide here, right? When we get into San Francisco, where people are really having a hard time, affording a broom closet to live in, right? This is a much more popular idea. Again, we're only at a third of the vote in, so this whole story could change just a little bit on the geography. So I'm hesitant to make like any massive pronouncements, but we can turn on the heat map and give you a little bit of an idea. It kind of tends to mush things down to white that are more a little toss-up, but this gives you a better idea of if I can zoom back in, how the heat for this proposal shakes out. We go look. I was just talking about San Francisco. There, it's a little more like 70-30, right? So we'll watch how that materializes over the night. But yeah, it is one of those things where, if you make it really reductionist and go, gosh, like everyone's had the opportunity to talk about whether we're going to go through with these policies. Here's the way things are shaking out on minimum wage right now. We're very, very close. It's on a razor's edge. And if I can go ahead and just hit the totals, we can get back to the state total. And you can see this thing is within 80,000 votes in a state the size of California. That is coin toss territory.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah. So, minimum wage has a stronger history in California as just being a more popular policy area to try to bring some sort of income equality to people than rent control does, and you couldn't see it more starkly than that.
Okay.
This was very close. Rent control, not so much. Although it does seem to be very popular down here.
It's interesting perspective when we can see that heat map and the urban-rural divide, right? It really helps break it down as we're watching those results come in.
Brandon, I do want you to, we got to talk about Prop 36 though, right? I mean, because that has been the one that got national attention, this whole conversation around retail theft and what could be done to address some of the very viral images that we were seeing all across the country. I know that Democrats and even the governor had said that folks needed to think twice about this because this could perhaps lead to some of the same things that we have seen in the past of black and brown people especially being arrested, and that there would be questions around, well, is the budget there to lock folks up in the ways that we have in the past? But it seems voters are saying overwhelmingly something needs to be done and that this is indeed needed.
I'm reminded of the line from the movie The Shawshank Redemption where the warden talks about there's only 3 ways the taxpayers like to spend money on prisons: more bars, more guns, more guards, or something like that. I mean, that's like literally, look at the green. I mean, that is the way that California voters are sounding off. They're not terribly concerned with the cost, the billions of dollars in cost of housing additional inmates. The state analysts tell us that that's really what we're looking at here is hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, over the next several years to house more people. But in the face of an obvious problem here, Californians are expressing their will to say, hey, we need to be tougher on these crimes specifically. And you couldn't have a clearer result than that. Whether Prop 36 vision of this is going to be ultimately what happens, or we're going to see the legislature and the governor try to steer it or change it in some way to make it more palatable to their policy goals, that's what remains to be seen at this time. But yes, I mean, there is a clear mandate from the voters. It doesn't get a lot clearer than 70-30. And whether that's going to be the ultimate breakdown remains to be seen. But I mean, if you just look at the vote count, You know,
Yeah.
we're talking almost a 3 million vote difference right now.
Brandon,
They're not
just
going to
as
get
far-
over that.
Yeah, just as far as practicality, it's on the path to passing. When it, or should it do that, when would it kick in? And give us some breakdowns on that, what we can expect, and any cost to taxpayers as well.
Oh, so there's a couple components to your question. When it kicks in, unless the courts step in, you could see it start to kick in really quickly. How those effects are going to start to hit the budget and the prison system, that's going to be more of a trickle, because really this policy comes down to what local DAs do with it, right? In our system, you have to be accused of a crime, then you have to be taken to trial or perhaps reach a plea deal, right? So this is one of those things where as cases start making their way onto local prosecutors' desks, they're going to have decisions to make about, hey, we got some new felonies that we can go back and start doing with these recidivists, particularly when it comes to the organized retail theft and also some of these drug offenses that are included in Prop 36. Do they decide to go after more people, and to what extent? And that is really where the rubber is going to meet the road.